seperti yang saya kongsikan tadi, bermula pada tengah malam hari Isnin 10 Jun 2024, harga diesel di semua stesen runcit petrol di Semenanjung Malaysia akan ditetapkan pada kadar RM3.35 seliter, iaitu harga pasaran tanpa subsidi berdasarkan purata bulan Mei 2024 mengikut formula automatic pricing mechanism yang sedia ada. Dan Menteri Kewangan 2 Datuk Seri Amir Hamzah Azizan berkata, dengan penetapan harga dan pelaksanaan subsidi bersasar ini, kerajaan menjaga pengurangan serta-merta kerugian aktiviti ketirisan yang boleh membawa penjimatan sebanyak RM4 bilion setahun. Jadi dengan penghapusan subsidi diesel ini, kita nak lihat bagaimana langkah ini akan memberi kesan terhadap ekonomi dan perbelanjaan kerajaan. Adakah harga barang akan meningkat? Jadi kita akan bersama dengan Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid, Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad. Doktor, pertama sekali kita lihat kesan akhir itu sendiri, bagaimana penetapan harga diesel pada kadar RM3.35 seliter ini akan memberi kesan kepada kos sara hidup rakyat di Semenanjung Malaysia. Silakan.
Okay. Terima kasih Nabila. Secara teorinya, kalau kita melihat komposisi indeks harga pengguna, diesel hanya mewakili sekitar 0.2% lah dari segi pemberat dalam indeks harga pengguna tersebut. Namun itu secara teorinya lah. Namun secara realitinya, bagaimana transmisi harga itu akan berlaku, itu sesuatu yang perlu diperhatikan, dan ini menuntut pihak kerajaan dan pihak berwajib untuk memantau dan juga melaksanakan penguatkuasaan secara menyeluruh bagi memastikan aktiviti pengambilan untung ataupun profiteering itu dapat kita minimumkan. Kerana secara lumrahnya memang akan adalah pihak-pihak yang mahu kata tu menangguh di air yang keruh, dan kita sebagai pengguna sebenarnya kita tidak mempunyai maklumat yang cukup lah dari segi struktur kos perniagaan. Jadi apabila kita ke kedai, apabila peniaga tersebut menyatakan kos mereka telah naik, maka mereka terpaksa mengenakan harga yang tinggi, maka kita sebagai pengguna kita akan menerima sahaja kebanyakan masanya lah. Jadi pihak berkuasa lah yang sepatutnya melihat perkara ini bagi memastikan aktiviti pengambilan untung yang secara berlebihan ini dapat dikekang dan supaya dasar ini dapat dilaksanakan dengan lebih baik lagi. Jadi itu pandangan saya lah berkenaan impak kepada harga barang.
Jadi mungkin apa mekanisme subsidi bersasar yang akan dilaksanakan oleh kerajaan untuk kita pastikan golongan yang benar-benar memerlukan mendapat manfaat, dan bagaimana untuk kita pastikan tiada ketirisan penyalahgunaan dalam pelaksanaan subsidi bersasar ni atau kita panggil pencatutan harga?
Saya kira mekanisme yang telah diumumkan dan telah pun dilaksanakan, saya kira telah pun dianggap sesuatu yang positif. Yang saya kira menjadi persoalan utama adalah bagaimana kita nak memastikan mereka yang layak itu datang ke depan dan orang kata tu memohon segala bentuk bantuan yang mereka layak lah. Kerana apa yang dilakukan setakat ini, program MyBudi sebagai contoh hanya mendapat penerima manfaat. Jadi mungkin kita mahukan penerima ini akan lebih jumlahnya, maka kempen dari segi bagaimana untuk mengisi borang, untuk datang ke depan, berjumpa dengan pihak-pihak berwajib untuk memastikan mereka layak mendapat bantuan, itu merupakan satu keutamaan yang perlu diberikan prioriti buat masa ini.
Tapi kita nak tengok juga apakah kesan jangka panjang kenaikan atau pengurangan harga diesel ini terhadap ekonomi Malaysia secara keseluruhan. Kalau kita nak tengok mungkin dari segi inflasi ataupun kuasa beli, termasuk sektor-sektor seperti pengangkutan dan peladangan, macam mana kita boleh melihat kesannya itu dari jangka pandang?
Baik. Kesan jangka pendek macam saya sebutkan tadi, risiko berlaku kenaikan harga itu memang ada, dan ini menuntut pihak berwajib untuk memantau dan menguatkuasai undang-undang. Itu yang pertama lah dari segi jangka pendek. Jangka panjang pula, ini yang mahu difokuskan oleh pihak kerajaan, kerana dengan langkah ini akan mewujudkan suatu bentuk penjimatan sekitar 4 bilion. Jadi dengan angka 4 bilion ini sudah pasti akan membuka ruang yang banyak bagi pihak kerajaan untuk berbelanja ke arah yang lebih produktif lagi. Sebagai contoh, berbelanja dalam sektor pendidikan, sektor kesihatan, dalam sektor infrastruktur, yang mana kita sedia maklum perkara-perkara ini penting untuk generasi akan datang. Contoh, kalau kita melihat sektor pendidikan, sudah pasti kita memerlukan sekolah yang baik dari segi infrastrukturnya, bilik darjahnya, dari segi perabotnya. Kita mahukan student yang datang belajar dalam keadaan yang tenang, cikgu juga bermotivasi untuk belajar. Jadi itu memerlukan dana sebenarnya. Jadi dengan wujudnya suatu bentuk penjimatan 4 bilion ini akan dapat digunakan bagi meningkatkan sektor pendidikan sebagai contoh yang akan memberi manfaat kepada negara dalam tempoh jangka panjang, yang mana kita dapat melahirkan modal insan yang berketerampilan, yang mempunyai kemahiran yang tinggi. Jadi itu merupakan suatu kesan jangka panjang yang positif lah.
Dan sudah tentu faktor utama juga adalah untuk mengimbangi fiskal negara. Jadi bagaimana untuk kita lihat dari aspek lain dari segi pengurangan atau penambahan subsidi oleh kerajaan ini boleh mempengaruhi nilai ringgit? Bagaimana doktor?
Saya melihat betul. Saya melihat dari segi pasaran keuangan pula, sudah pasti agensi penerapan kredit seperti Moody's, S&P dan juga Fitch Ratings sebagai contoh akan mempunyai suatu penilaian yang positif kepada kedudukan kredit kerajaan Malaysia, kerana kerajaan dilihat begitu komited untuk memastikan sasaran defisit fiskal itu dapat dikecilkan dan juga kadar hutang itu dapat diturunkan. Jadi ini merupakan langkah yang akan memastikan sasaran tersebut dapat dicapai, dan sudah pasti penilaian kredit kerajaan Malaysia akan mempunyai suatu penilaian yang baik, yang ini akan dapat menggalakkan ataupun menarik minat belian kepada aset-aset keuangan dalam bentuk ringgit lah, yang mana ia akan dapat menarik minat belian daripada pelabur asing yang akan berkesan langsung kepada nilai ringgit pada masa akan datang.
Tapi doktor, kita nak lihat secara keseluruhan juga kalau bagaimana doktor melihat polisi subsidi yang sedia ada ini membantu atau meningkatkan daya saing ekonomi Malaysia dalam konteks global, tapi mungkin pada masa hadapan kita juga ada pengurangan subsidi untuk RUN 95 dan RUN 97. Bagaimana ini akan memberi impak kepada rakyat secara keseluruhan?
Okey, hakikatnya reformasi ini bukan sesuatu yang mudah lah, kerana dia melibatkan kesan jangka pendek yang mana mungkin berlaku kenaikan harga, dan ini terserlah apabila kita melihat sasaran inflasi pada tahun ini yang mana jajarannya itu begitu ataupun jualan itu begitu besar, ya, antara 2% sehingga 3.5%. Itu menunjukkan ketidakpastian terhadap kesan perubahan dasar kepada tingkat harga. Namun perubahan ataupun perubahan dasar ini juga membuka faktor penting untuk memastikan daya saing ekonomi akan terus maju pada masa akan datang, terutamanya dari segi produktiviti negara. Dan sudah pasti untuk meningkatkan produktiviti negara, perbelanjaan terhadap sektor pendidikan, kesihatan dan infrastruktur juga ada sesuatu yang perlu ditekankan. Jadi ada kesan jangka pendek yang agak negatif mungkin dari segi peningkatan harga, namun jangka panjangnya semua rakyat Malaysia akan mendapat manfaatnya.
Dan daripada itu, doktor, juga kita nak tengok minggu depan keputusan FOMC mengenai kadar faedah akan diadakan, di mana kita nak meliti komponen penting yang akan mempengaruhi ekonomi. Jadi bagaimana jangkaan doktor?
Okey, baik, minggu ini FOMC akan bermesyuarat dan akan mengumumkan keputusan mereka dalam 12 Jun nanti. Sudah pasti ini juga akan menentu hala tuju nilai ringgit lah. Buat masa ini kalau kita melihat data minggu lalu, data satu pekerjaan di Amerika Syarikat menunjukkan peningkatan non-farm payroll yang agak tinggi, dan mungkin akan memberi sedikit kesan kepada bagaimana penilaian Fed terhadap ekonomi mereka. Namun kalau kita lihat negara-negara utama yang lain seperti di Eropah, kita dapat lihat kadar faedah mereka telah pun diturunkan. Jadi saya rasa it's a matter of time lah bila Fed Reserve akan mula menurunkan kadar faedah mereka. Cuma mungkin dari segi timing mungkin agak lambat sikit berbanding dengan negara-negara yang lain.
Tapi sejauh mana ketidaktentuan dalam keputusan FOMC ini mempengaruhi sentimen pelabur terhadap ringgit dan juga pasaran saham Malaysia? Pendapat doktor?
Faktor Fed ni memang faktor yang utama lah, kerana kita dapat lihat nilai dolar itu sendiri banyak mempengaruhi mata wang asing dan juga pasaran global, pasaran modal global lah. Namun kita sedang memerhatikan bilakah pemotongan kadar faedah ini, dan ini banyak bergantung kepada prestasi ekonomi mereka. Dan mesyuarat kali ini, FOMC kali ini agak penting kerana mereka akan berkongsi dari segi fokus ataupun unjuran ekonomi mereka. Dan sekiranya unjuran tersebut, terutamanya unjuran kepada kadar faedah menunjukkan pemotongan yang lebih lagi, maka mungkin itu akan memberi sedikit sentimen yang positif pada pasaran keuangan.
Doktor, mungkin yang terakhir, apakah strategi jangka panjang yang patut diambil oleh kerajaan Malaysia untuk melindungi ekonomi negara daripada langkah tidak popular dengan pelaksanaan subsidi dan juga ketidakstabilan pasaran global pada ketika ini?
Saya percaya pihak kerajaan telah pun jelas dalam hala tuju mereka untuk memastikan reformasi ekonomi ini akan terus berlaku. Memang ianya tidak popular dan untuk memastikan perkara ini akan dapat dicapai lebih baik lagi, maka perkara yang saya sering cakap dari segi komunikasi itu perlu ditekankan. Kemudian kena orang kata beristiqamah lah dalam berreformasi ini, kerana ianya bukan satu perkara yang bukan mudah, tapi ini untuk kebaikan jangka panjang.
Baik, terima kasih diucapkan kepada Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid, Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad atas perkongsian itu tadi, dan anda boleh dapatkan perkongsian atau perbincangan ini di semua platform digital Astro AWANI. Kita akan berhenti rehat seketika, kembali selepas ini.
Anjali, awak bukan hal sedih je macam jeruk. Bisnes dah lama, pelanggan kurang. Nak buat apa, nak suruh datang. Mungkin TV Pak kasih pasang, baru datang.
Jangan, Anjali jangan. Nanti kena denda, kamu di penjara.
Oh, habis macam mana, nak buat apa. Bisman Astro kan ada, pelanggan berganda. Nak tengok bola atau nak tengok opa, Anjali kena cuba. Astro kan ada, pelanggan berganda. Bisnes maju punya ganda-ganda.
Kita berbenda jaga kita.
Korang ni semua sama je, keras kepala macam Along. Korang nak aku mati, hadap korang seorang. Kalau ada apa-apa yang berlaku, siapa nak jaga adik-adik aku? Siapa? Maafkan Along, Abang.
Aku harap satu hari nanti engkau ada ruang dalam hati kau untuk maafkan aku. Itu je aku minta.
Sampai ruang dalam hati aku pun nak jajah kan.
Seterusnya, peminjam Perbadanan Tabung Pendidikan Tinggi Nasional atau PTPTN digesa merebut peluang insentif diskaun bayaran balik pinjaman.
Fenomena equinox menjadikan bumi dan matahari berada pada jarak paling dekat dalam sistem solar.
Malaysia berjaya membanteras jenayah berkaitan dadah bernilai 990 juta ringgit sejak 2019.
Jangan meletakkan harapan tinggi berhubung soal mencari jawapan pesawat Malaysia Airlines MH370 yang hilang 10 tahun lepas.
Welcome back to Niaga AWANI, and moving on, Malaysia's fintech firm Curlec by Razorpay has announced its partnership with TNG Digital, the operator of TNG e-wallet. The duo said in a statement on Wednesday that directly integrated with the TNG e-wallet enables Curlec to work collaboratively to empower undeserved markets to improve financial accessibility for merchants and consumers nationwide. And this includes small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, unbanked individuals in rural areas, and the younger generation lacking access to debit or credit cards. So to discuss further on this issue, we have the right authority to speak on this, which is the co-founder and CEO of Curlec himself, Zach Liu. Thank you so much for coming in the studio on Niaga AWANI. And firstly, perhaps you can share what inspired you from studying in the law firm, lost as a law student, and now venturing into fintech as an entrepreneur. So how do your background in law influence your career right now?
Sure. Thanks for having me here, firstly, Nabila. So yes, I have a law background. I went to university in the UK and studied law before, getting called to the bar there. And whilst, I can appreciate that, there were a lot of skills that I picked up throughout that process, I always, always had an entrepreneurial bug inside of me. And the reason for that was that growing up, both my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad was in property management, which he built from the ground up, whilst my mother was in retail and F&B. So, growing up, I remember my weekends being either, on a property side, a construction side, or alternatively, in the back office of a retail store, which really gave me the bug to build something, do something entrepreneurial. And, following my law degree, I tried my hand in a few different things and, really found that I wanted to build something. I felt very passionate about that. but I wanted to do something that could scale and something that could be big, and something, you know, that could add a lot of value to a lot of customers, whether those are businesses or consumers. And, you know, through Curlec, when we started this back up in 2017, it gave me the opportunity to do so. So yeah, here we are now.
So throughout the whole journey until right now, at this moment, what specific challenges that you face, especially in democratizing the sophisticated payment solutions? So what are those challenges and how do you mitigate them with Curlec?
Sure. So I think, you know, like any small businesses, we face the usual things that a lot of SMEs or startup businesses would face, which really around financing, you know, fundraising, getting your early customers, even hiring the right team to launch the business. And then those are sort of general startup issues. But if we look at sort of the issues that we face in our industry relating to online payments and fintech. So for one, when it comes to fintech and online payments, when you're involved in the process of money movement, it's a very, very sensitive issue. So firstly, to ensure that, you know, as a new company, we could build trust and credibility, not only of our customers, but our customers' customers. You know, we serve merchants, and our merchants serve consumers. So we had to invest heavily in compliance, heavily ensuring, you know, working with the right partners and the right banks to ensure that we could, you know, provide this service in a safe and secure way for our merchants. Secondly, was just, you know, the first product we launched to market was something called e-mandate or direct debit, which is a recurring online banking transaction where you set up a one-time authorization, and then following that, a business can pull payments when they're due. There's a lot of trust involved in that, right? And it's a new payment mechanism. So one of the things we had to do was really invest heavily into educating the market, like I said, working alongside the businesses that we serve, working alongside the central bank and the banks that we partner with to try and, you know, drive adoption, drive education and all of this. But it's an ongoing process.
But I see that you're prioritizing the needs of SMEs, large enterprises, also unbanked individuals. So can you share what's the situation right now?
Sure. So broadly speaking, we serve businesses of all sizes. So on the one hand, we serve enterprises, but, you know, really the long tail of our merchant base is really around SMEs and micro SMEs, you know, which makes up over 90% of our base. Really, when we look at, you know, these types of businesses, you know, have traditionally been underserved by traditional banking institutions, because, you know, I think, you know, when we look at this long tail software solutions and sort of the needs that these guys want to that they have from banks and traditional FIs weren't catered to. So what we do now for this base, SMEs, micro SMEs, is provide a one-stop solution. You can almost view it like a Swiss Army knife type approach, where for these businesses, when it comes to money movement, we want to be there to serve it. So whether that's helping you collect payments, helping you send payments, setting up e-commerce stores, payment links, payment pages, even to an extent payroll, we want to be there for, you know, these micro SMEs to have the ability to come to a one-stop shop that can help them with all their money movement needs.
So through this recent integration with TNG e-wallet, how does Curlec differentiate with other payment gateways, and how do you specifically, what are the unique values that you can provide to the users?
Sure. So, you know, we're incredibly excited with this partnership with Touch 'n Go. To answer this question in two parts, you know, what is different with us versus other payment companies, and subsequently, you know, how TNG fits into all of that. So, you know, what is different with us versus other payment companies typically is that, you know, we are a product and tech first company. There's this very trendy term at the moment, fintech, which obviously stands for financial technology. I would argue that, you know, the Curlec business is a tech fin, technology first and financial services after that. And, you know, what we do is, you know, payments is just one piece of the jigsaw for a business. So you think about a micro SME here, you know, I can process a transaction, but what do I do all the stuff beforehand? How do I set up a website? How do I set up, you know, pricing plans? How do I bill and invoice my customers? You know, how do I reconcile? What happens in the case of failed payments? And typically, you know, these businesses would have to manage all of these processes by themselves, which quite frankly, they don't have the technology know-how to do so. So that's where really we come in, and we provide, like I said earlier, a one-stop shop, Swiss Army knife type approach, which really goes beyond processing an actual payments. Because really, from our view, payments is a commoditized business. You have to start adding a lot of value-added services outside of it. Now, coming to Touch 'n Go. So extremely excited by this Touch 'n Go partnership. On the one hand, like I said, you know, we're in the business of payment aggregation. And we want to offer our merchants the ability to offer the payment methods that their customers want to pay with. Touch and Go is over 20 million accounts, which actually, if you think about it from an adult population in Malaysia, is nearly close to 100%. 100% of the adult population use a TNG e-wallet. So now, firstly, by enabling this on our platform, we can give our merchants the ability to pay using this. But I think the more interesting part and the more sort of novel part is really the fact that we're enabling recurring and subscription payments through Touch and Go, and really sort of the first company to be able to do this at scale. And why that's exciting is when we talked, about serving the underserved and serving the underbanked, typically when we had businesses that wanted to move to what we coined the subscription economy, where they want to provide things on a recurring basis, want to give their customers that Netflix type experience or Astro type experience. They never really had the capabilities to do so because the payment methods that were widely available for customers to pay these businesses were typically credit cards. The issue with credit cards in the Malaysian market is credit card penetration is very low in this market. Less than 20% of the population have a credit card. So, consumers couldn't pay, businesses couldn't offer this service to their customers. Now with Touch and Go, which, like I said, has over 20 million accounts in Malaysia, we can now very, very simply, and consumers can pay very, very easily through a click of a button. They can now set up a recurring or subscription-based plan with any of our merchants, which means that, for these merchants, whilst previously you could only provide this to 20% credit card holders, now you can provide it to over 90% TNG e-wallet holders, which really increases your your customer base by, well, let's say over 70%. So really, really trying to drive adoption, really, really trying to, drive new business models, not only for enterprises, but all the way to micro SMEs and give everyone that Netflix type experience.
But interesting that Curlec caters to both and not just large enterprises, but small businesses at the same time. So how does Curlec specifically measure the scalability and also adaptability in different sizes of business?
Sure. So I think, in terms of scalability, there are two prongs of approach that we take. On the one side, as you mentioned, we serve enterprise businesses, and in that, typically more B2B sales process, and we go industry by industry and provide very, very customized solutions to those markets. If we talk about the SME segment, which in Malaysia now it's anywhere between 1 to 2 million SME businesses. Obviously, from a scalability perspective, it'd be impossible to go door to door to serve these guys. So what we invest heavily on is the ability for businesses now to onboard completely seamlessly online, whereby now through a few clicks, you can do so, you can KYC yourself, and then you can start to process payments completely online. There's a funny story, we always use internally, which is there's this thing called the pizza test.
Okay.
So for a business, Domino's Pizza, typically what was the slogan, you could do this under 28 minutes, right? You can order your pizza and go. The challenge we set internally is, can a business sign up for our system and onboard and subsequently start transacting quicker than it takes to get a pizza delivered to your house? So that's the challenge we pose. That's the challenge we can do now. So more to my point here is we can do this, completely self-serve, completely online, and then from a scalability perspective means we can reach, as many merchants as possible in a short space of time.
Perhaps another thing that you can share is that Curlec standout features that its ability to bridge local and international payment gateways. So maybe you can share on how do you ensure to allow these businesses to handle both local and cross-border transactions smoothly?
Sure. So I think when we look at the Malaysian payments market, and you broadly put it on a spectrum, on the one side you've got local companies, incumbents, who have been in the market for maybe close to 2 decades now, and are very, very, very strong at domestic payments, very, very strong, with local teams and support. But typically the products and services and technology they provide, they're more focused on processing a transaction than solving, other operational complexities. On the flip side, you have international companies that are very strong from a technology perspective, but don't necessarily provide all your favorite local payment methods or your support, and are also quite strong at cross-border payments. Where we believe there's an opportunity to position ourselves right down the middle. Have a very, very, very strong local team with local know-how, have all your favorite domestic payment methods, have a local team support, etc. But couple that with all the great technologies that we've built, and have built in the Indian market, where now we're serving over 10 million businesses. And in the combination of the two, like you said, has this payments uncompromised approach that we feel is, will be a unique selling point in the Malaysian market.
And as a non-bank member of PayNet or Payments Network Malaysia, considering the compliance and also reliability as well as the regulatory requirements, how does Curlec work towards bringing solutions for all the SMEs and also the underbanks, especially when you're not related to the PayNet? So how does this work?
Sure. So, I think when we look at becoming a member of PayNet, becoming a licensed member of Bank Negara, really there's two main things you have to solve. One is obviously compliance, and secondly is scalability and reliability for the merchants that we serve. So when it comes to compliance, we're now licensed by the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara. We're now licensed by RBI in India, and so heavily audited, compliant with those two authorities, and we are compliant to also all international standards when it comes to sort of data management. Now, from a scalability and reliability perspective, which ultimately means that sort of our enterprise and micro SME businesses never have to fear about their payments getting lost, et cetera, which is obviously an issue, right? And I think one that still persists in this market. One thing that, like I mentioned earlier, one thing that we have is that we are now the #1 payments company in India. We're serving over 10 million businesses. And the technology we're now bringing to the Malaysian market all sits on the same infrastructure. So what that means is that it's battle tested, it's extremely robust. We can process up to 10,000 transactions per second. Just to give you a little bit, sort of put that into context, that's actually more transactions than the entire country can process. So from a scalability and reliability perspective, ensuring that uptimes are up there for all our merchants, we're extremely ready for that, battle tested, as well.
All right, maybe the last one before we end this discussion, perhaps what are Curlec's expansion plans considering all these technological investments that we have? We have AI, we have automation. So how do you plan to go forward in perhaps 5 to 10 years?
Sure. So I think we are certainly looking at expansion, in particular regional expansion. As a group, as the Razorpay group came and acquired a majority stake in Curlec, Malaysia has always been seen as a strategic destination for the rest of Southeast Asia. And I personally think this is a great story for Malaysia in the sense that, one of the largest fintechs or fastest growing fintechs in the world have come into this market and want to use it as a launchpad for the region. And the reason for that, from an infrastructure, talent point of view, Malaysia is very, very attractive. And it's also is a good testing ground for the rest of the markets. What we see in terms of the Southeast Asia opportunity is that there is no one payments company that is solving the ability to transact completely cross-border in the region. So as an example, it's still very, very difficult for a Malaysian business to sell to Vietnam or a Thai consumer to purchase from a Malaysian business. And what we're looking to do is really, really go very, very deep in all these markets, whereby we can provide the merchants, for example, like I said in Malaysia, the ability to sell completely seamlessly across the region, collect payments seamlessly, and obviously very affordably as well. So, that's really sort of the expansion plan in and around Southeast Asia for us.